A year on from the dashed hopes of Copenhagen, and the world's politicians are at it again. In Cancun, Mexico, they've renewed efforts to find a deal capable of combating man-made global warming. My guest today is one of the most vocal advocates of urgent action, President Mohammed Nasheed of the Maldives. Rising sea levels could submerge his Indian Ocean home by the end of this century. Is it time to stop hoping for the best and start planning for the worst? President Mohammed Nasheed, welcome to Hard Talk.
Thank you very much.
Your country is one of the most vulnerable in environmental terms in the entire world. Does this threat seem ever more imminent? Are there signs that things are changing?
It's a very present day issue for the Maldives. We already have 16 islands where we are having to relocate people. We have water contamination problems. We have issues to do with food security because of sea temperature, ocean temperature changes. Yes, it is an issue that we are having to face, we are having to deal with in the present and now. If we can't find solutions in the next few years, we have a window of opportunity of about maybe 7 years, and if we are able to find a solution within that 7 years, we still have hope that we will be able to survive as a country, as a nation, as a community.
You did something rather extraordinary just before the Copenhagen summit. You took your entire cabinet underwater. You held a cabinet meeting under about 12 feet of water. That was a gimmick, and I just wonder whether, on reflection, given the seriousness of this issue and the difficulties there are politically to get things done, whether you feel that gimmick was actually a wise thing to do.
Well, you know, we had to impress upon the international community the seriousness of the issue, the challenges that we face. And yes, I do understand that, you know, it was very different, out-of-the-box thinking, but I still am with the view that the world is much more aware of the issue because of our cabinet meeting. And most heads of states have seen the meeting. Most people are aware of our situation, and just not us, all small islands and low-lying islands. And I think it has paid back.
But I'm interested in how you approach publicizing what you believe to be the necessary urgent actions and sending that message to the world. Another thing you've done recently is declare that the Maldives will be carbon neutral by 2020, and you've outlined how you're going to do it with renewables and solar power and everything else. Again, interesting, caused a big international stir, but of course won't make a blind bit of difference to the planetary impacts of global warming.
Well, the Maldives becoming carbon neutral per se is not going to make a difference to the level of carbon emission. But if we are able to find a low carbon development strategy where other countries can also mimic and map, then of course...
But they can't. That's the point I'm making. I mean, the Maldives is such an extraordinary and unusual place. You've got 350,000 people,
yes,
roughly, hundreds of, yes, islands, an economy built on one sector, which is tourism. You don't represent anything other than yourselves.
We do. All nations, all communities, all countries are a collection of families, a collection of homes. If we can deal with one home, one family, then it's only a question of multiplication. Yes, Maldives is just 300,000 people, but 1 billion people in India is also a section of 300,000 peoples. And if we can find a low carbon strategy for 300,000 people, that can very well be mapped on India or in China or anywhere else in the world. I don't think that our numbers are irrelevant in this sense. Smallness doesn't necessarily mean that you do not have viable economic solutions.
Let's talk about Cancun and the way in which the politics seems so very stuck still when it comes to seeking a global agreement on climate change actions. Stuck in the sense that the developed and the developing worlds still seem to have differences which cannot be bridged, even a year after Copenhagen, when they were fully exposed?
Yes, but we are moving. I believe that we are moving in the right direction. We now have a number of developing countries who've come out with the idea that they have to find a low-carbon development strategy. And I think this idea and the concepts are also being tested and bought in India, in China. And I believe that it is quite possible for the rest of the world also to pick up on it. And the agreements, the understandings that we had in Copenhagen, if we can take them to Cancun and solidly wedge them, anchor them in the UNFCCC process, I think that's the right way, and that's a path that we should take. And we will hopefully come out with a legally binding agreement in South Africa.